finally got news on Henri Veesaar, but it is not the news we were hoping for.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
As we get going here, this episode.
All eyes from Carolina were on Henri Veesaar, and the news comes while I was literally in the middle of teaching a class. For those who don't know, I'm also a professor, from Matt Norlander from CBS Sports, who at, what time did this come out? 11:40 a.m. Eastern said, news, Henri Veesaar is leaving UNC and intends to stay in the NBA draft, source told CBS Sports. Veesaar averaged 17 points, 8.7 rebounds, shot 42% from three. Big domino on this NCAA draft declaration deadline day. Veesaar, a potential first rounder, but will leave a big NIL bag on the table as a result. Ooh, gross, woof. This news comes as a big change from where things stood earlier in the week, where we were told that North Carolina and...
Did you all lose me? Sorry, I think my audio might have bumped out there. Do we have me? You got me? I think I can hear it. I might just have to hold my mic. That's very weird. I apologize. Big change from where things stood earlier in the week, as we were told that Veesaar and Carolina were just basically working on figuring everything out. And can you hear me now? Is it better? Let me know. All right. Sorry, everybody. I see your comments. I apologize. Not sure what all you didn't hear, so I'll just start some of that over. I apologize. The news comes that Henri Veesaar is leaving. This is from Matt Norlander, CBS Sports. Henri Veesaar is leaving UNC and intends to stay in the NBA draft. Source tells CBS Sports, averaged 17 points, 8.7 boards, shot 42% from three. Big domino on this NCAA draft declaration deadline day. Veesaar, a potential first rounder, but will leave a big NIL bag on the table as a result. And Matt Norlander goes on to say, by the way, multiple schools tried to lure Henri Veesaar into the portal in the past few weeks by offering him up to $6 million. But per multiple sources, UNC's NIL negotiations never approached that range, but the Heels definitely could have cleared $4 million had he opted to stay. Looking to see. Yes. All right. Everybody says you can hear me. I apologize. I don't know what's happening with my mic. That's really stand by. Hello. Check. Okay, there we go. I'm so sorry, everybody, and keep letting me know. I'm following along with your comments in the chat. It's been a hectic morning, and wouldn't you know it, on a day when Veesaar news breaks, that things are going wrong for me as well. Okay, what I was saying is this is a big change from earlier in the week, where the news was that North Carolina and Henri Veesaar were in conversations and just working on the number and what it was. And that unfortunately doesn't come out to be the case, where as I just read Matt Norlander's second tweet there that literally just came out as we're recording, the numbers are massive, and you had to go pay Henri what he wanted, and that's a thing. And I've got to own something right here, right now, out of the gate. On Thursday, the show I did basically where I think things would fall. And I said, you know what? If I had to make a call right now, I think Henri Veesaar is back. And I was dead wrong in that assessment. But look, that's the game we're in, where we're making those calls. But I always tell you, and I'm never going to back down from it, that it's my job to make a call. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to come back and tell you I'm wrong, and I'll apologize. And there will be all of that. And here's the good news for North Carolina, though. it is a kindness. Coach Rob, our guy, Coach Rob, that's always on the show. Now I'm kicking my mic. Good grief. Coach Bill Robinson always tells me both yes and no are a kindness. Perhaps the most difficult news would be Henri Veesaar declares for the draft, but he's in keeping his eligibility and could come back to North Carolina, right? Like that could be even more difficult because then you're like, so do we pursue others? Do we not? But now at least you know what I mean? It would have been more difficult to get the maybe than the no. And so I'm grateful to Henri Veesaar for at least being definitive here. And of the answers, obviously yes was by far the desired result, but this no and I'm intending to stay in the draft is much better than yes, but a maybe. You know what I'm saying? And so we will take that side of it, take that side of the kindness of Henri giving Carolina that news. The other part of this is you think about it, and now you got lots of money to spend because all the money you were going to spend on Henri, you're not going to. All the money, just the money you were planning to spend on Juke Harris, you kind of saved and spent less money to get Matt Abel, for example. But look, let's not sugarcoat this. This is a massive loss. There is no, similar to Caleb Wilson when he got hurt and we're like, how do you replace Caleb Wilson? You can't. There is no way to replace Caleb Wilson. Let's just be honest about it. There is no one-for-one replacement for Henri Veesaar and what Carolina could have done with him. And so we'll talk about where Carolina turns next. We'll head there after the break when we get into the second segment. But you got a lot of money to throw around. But the problem is that a lot of guys have already started committing to other places. And a lot of guys are already off the board. And so you're going to have to deal with all that as you start thinking about, all right, where do we turn next? Now, there are plenty of other people who have not made commitments. So we'll look at and we'll talk about that. I got to say at a personal level, I'm bummed, man. I really liked the fit of how this would have all come together with what the staff had already done with retaining Jaron Stevenson. And then Henri at the 5, you have that consistency. You have another returner, and now you're not going to get that. And that's a difficult and unfortunate thing that they're going to have to deal with. As we're chatting, in fact, let me bring up the roster makeup chart so that we can look at that and kind of look at it. For those who are listening, you can go find it. I've tweeted this out as well. So where things stand right now, North Carolina has 1, 2, 3 seniors that are locked in. Terrence Brown Jr., Jaron Stevenson, and Jaden Young. Obviously, Stevenson and Young are returners. Evan Smith, I still have italicized. He and John Holbrook. I need to look in and make some communication, but ultimately, they're kind of walk-on level guys. And then at the junior level, you've got Maxime Loguet, who is coming over from FAU. He's intended to be a depth piece, but if North Carolina doesn't find much in the front court, they might have to rely on him more heavily. And then sophomores, Matt Abel, Neo Avdalis, Abel coming from NC State, Avdalis from Virginia Tech. That's kind of backcourt guys. Isaiah Dennis returning to North Carolina in the backcourt. That's good news there. And then you've got Maximo Adams coming in as a freshman. He should contribute. Might have to contribute more now than previously expected. And then Malloy Smith, the son of Kenny the Jet Smith. He's not a player you expect to contribute much. Just kind of more like, obviously he's going to play hard and he's coming, but more of kind of a legacy commitment. And so that's what North Carolina has. And so the problem now is you see the backcourt has a lot of the pieces that they probably already need. The issue is that the front court right now is quite empty, and you got to look at how do we now start to fill this, knowing that the portal's been open for a while and a lot of guys have already moved around. So that's where we need to go now is you lose everything that Henri Veesaar was bringing to the table, and you got to figure out how to fill that. And so we'll start to look and have that conversation coming up here in just a second. right after I tell you about FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers just like you a great way to get in on the action. Here's what I really like about it. You bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow up on the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. During the playoffs, that insight is really, really helpful when you're looking at all of it. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. As you look at FanDuel's odds for next year's national championship, Duke, Michigan, Florida lead the way at plus 700. Carolina's back of that a little bit at plus 3,500. And after this news, it might fall a little more. Head on over to FanDuel.com to get started again. FanDuel, play your game. Thanks for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you never miss an episode, time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club. Get ad-free audio, one-on-one messaging, access to our members-only Discord, and more. It's all built for you, our most loyal fans. Check it out at the link lockedontarheels.supercast.com, and you can find that link down in the show notes. Okay, so the conversation continues into what on earth do you do now? Where do you turn? Well, I said it, but there is no one-for-one replacement for Henri Veesaar. That's part of what makes this news all the more crushing. And I say crushing again. This is great for Henri to go. I haven't even talked about that side of it. To go realize his dream. This is great for North Carolina long-term in recruiting, because you can say, hey, Henri Veesaar came here to North Carolina from Arizona, and everybody loves Arizona, but he couldn't do it there. He came to North Carolina, turned into a draft pick, and he's off and he's gone. Carolina taught him how to rebound or whatever, and suddenly getting all these double doubles. So in that regard, you can look at this as a win. It's just the bummer is for this year and this year's team. And that's where the struggle is. So when I look then at where do you turn now and what do you do? There's a world in which you go back to the drawing board and think in this way. If we were starting from scratch, how would we now try to construct our front court? How would we put it together? What would we do? Yes, you've got Jaron Stevenson. It critically factors into this thing. And you've got Maxime Loguet, who, again, he's a depth piece. I don't think you look at that. You just look at that as nice, we've got some insurance beyond him. But I think you go back to the drawing board in terms of rethinking this whole front court. Do we look at some other high-level power forwards, not just centers? Do we look at, Milan Momcilovic is a guy who is both in the portal and in the NBA draft. He led the nation last year in three-pointers made and in three-point percentage, was fantastic at Iowa State. I've loved him for years. And one of the things we've been talking about that Carolina needs is three-point shooting. And boy, would he bring it from the 4 position. The problem, obviously, Jaron Stevenson is not a 5, neither is Momcilovic. So you'd have to kind of rethink how you're doing that. But again, when you think about the three-point shooting, one of the best shooters you had on this team was Henri Veesaar. And now you don't have him to help in that regard. Momcilovic would bring that. Another name that's out there that hasn't committed yet is Alan Graves, who's, again, another kind of more power forward. He's from Santa Clara last year. I know he'd been connected to some other big name schools, and is someone I know others are in talks with. I mean, same with, as you thought about Momcilovic, right? Momcilovic, a lot of people said, well, if Thomas Houck doesn't come back to Florida, maybe Momcilovic is the guy at Florida. Well, Houck is back. And so maybe Houck is someone that you could get, or not Houck, Momcilovic is someone you could get at North Carolina. But then you look at Alan Graves from Santa Clara. He's bigger than Momcilovic. He's 6'9". Last year, what were his numbers at Santa Clara last year? Let me remind myself of that. Alan Graves. Last year at Santa Clara, 11.8 points a game, 6.5 rebounds a game, 1.8 assists, 1.9 steals. shot 41.3%. So again, similar to Momcilovic, a big who can step out, flex out, shoot it, and knock it down. So maybe you look at, hey, we got a whole big chunk of cash. Could we go after some other power forwards? But critically, you have to now go get a center, because that's not Momcilovic, that's not Graves, that's not Jaren Stevenson. So one of the big names that everybody's been talking about would be Masamba Diop from Arizona State. Diop last year, let me remind myself of his numbers. 13.6 points a game, 5.8 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 2 blocks a game. Doesn't shoot many threes, but shoots just right at 30%. But he's a big dude, 7'1", 230. Can bang around a little bit, do that if you need it to. The problem is, again, he's a guy that multiple schools have already been in contact with, that he's gone to visit. I think St. John's, if I remember correctly. I know Gonzaga is very hopeful to get him. I'm sure my buddy Andy Patton, who's my co-host on Locked On College Basketball, who's our Locked On Gonzaga host, is like, crap, North Carolina is going to get in on Diop now. They need to. You've got Mustafa Team coming from Cincinnati. He's another one of the bigger names in the transfer portal right now. Last year for Wes Miller, 12.8 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, 1.6 block shots. The year before that, he had 2.6 block shots a game to lead the Big 12 in blocks. He's a guy that'll step out and shoot it. Not a great three-point shooter. He's sub 30% from his career. But again, there is all that. Now, that's some of the names that you could look at that are currently in college, or currently in the transfer portal and might be coming back to college. But there's some other routes to go as well. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation about Mika Murinen. Mika Murinen is a guy that might come play college basketball. He's very intriguing. He's somebody that, there's been some level of concern about maybe some chemistry or character things, but there is the connection with his mom. His mom played at North Carolina, and so there is that connection. He's somebody whose game I had liked for a while, but there are question marks. And again, he's not a 5. He's another that would come in as a power forward and is not a guaranteed thing like a Momcilovic or a Graves, who come having had high level success in college basketball already. Another area you look and turn is guys that are doing what Henri Veesaar is doing, but guys that are saying, I'm entering the NBA draft, but might ultimately pull out and come back to college. And if the price is right, and again, North Carolina's got a big bag, there you go. So do you kind of start to search in those ranks more than perhaps you previously were? Another place to go is the international waters. We've talked about this a lot. Obviously, Henri Veesaar himself is the big Estonian and came over from there. But are there guys you could go find? The example I've used a lot this offseason is Testa Ritter, who this time last year, none of us knew his name. He came, played at Virginia, and was a first-team All-ACC player in the first year under Ryan Odom. That's a possibility. So I'm just throwing names out there to say, internationally, there are names you don't know about, that I don't know about, that we will probably start to research and hear about. And part of it, there are all these guys that have committed elsewhere, and you don't want to be known as the school that now goes tampering to say, hey, I know you verbally committed to this school. You haven't signed yet. Would you like to come to North Carolina? You don't want to be known as that school, but are there guys that have verbally committed to other schools that they themselves might think, oh, I committed here, but now I'd like to back out and go to North Carolina instead? If they initiate that, I'm great with that. And we see that every offseason now, where things change. Yes, this dude commits here, but now the tide has turned and things have changed. And so he or she is going to go wherever that may be. Here's another angle I'm just going to throw out there. I don't know that it's ideal, but my take had been that with Carolina getting the trio of backcourt guys they've got in Neo Avdalis, in Terrence Brown, and in Matt Abel, that probably takes you out of the Juke Harris sweepstakes. Do you revisit that? I don't know that it makes sense from a roster construction standpoint based on what you've already done. But I think if I'm the coaching staff, I'm at very least revisiting those conversations to think at, could we circle back around and would it make sense? Again, that's a lot of money, and you would have to make absolutely sure that that would be the roster construction route you would want to go. I don't know that it is, but there you go. So that's where things stand right now. I know there's a lot of comments and questions over in the chat, and I'm sure a lot of you have asked them. And so I'd love to go and kind of chat with you guys some, hear what you have to say, and recognize some of the comments coming from you. I'm sure a lot of which go back to when we were having mic issues earlier in the show. Of course, we were having mic issues earlier. We'll we'll get to your questions coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Indeed. Oh man, you got workplace chaos. Your deadlines are stacking up. Your email inbox is overflowing, and the one position you still need to fill is sitting there wide open. Well, when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, y'all, that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs, who helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I'm talking to you, 27 companies just like yours are going to make hires on Indeed according to their worldwide data. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of our show are going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get that premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go there right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Tar Heels. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Welcome back in Locked On Tar Heels emergency breaking edition. It is 12:45 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. Henri Veesaar off to the NBA, intends to stay in the draft according to CBS Sports' Matt Norlander. This is tough for North Carolina. It's great. Excited for Henri Veesaar to start this next chapter, but it means that Carolina has to pivot. Again, I've said this is good news in terms of getting a firm no, because now you know you have to pivot. You're not sitting around waiting to see if Henri will come dance with you again. We're going to turn now to the chat and see what kind of questions and observations you guys have. Our guy Joseph Alexander says, the word I keep coming back to when describing this offseason, a roller coaster ride, ups and downs. And boy, has it ever been that. When you think about all of the peaks and valleys that we have processed together, from the coaching change to player personnel in and out and all of that, my goodness, like there's so much of that. And it carries on. So we wait to see where Carolina moves from there. A lot of people talking about Carolina's ceiling. This is Bugman says this is a huge blow to our optimism. Yeah, it is. It's funny because I think it was last week, maybe about this time, I preached patience. Like, let's be patient and let this staff continue to work things out. And on Tuesday, when you got that trio of commitments, you're like, okay, that's great. And there was the optimism rising again. And then there's this news. I'm going to continue to encourage patience, to let them work this out and find what is there and go get it. It may work and it may not, but give this staff an opportunity to prove themselves, right? What a chance for them to set things up. Josh even says, Malone will put that money to good use we were planning to use for Henri. I'm sure they have been working behind the scenes, and when that news drops, it'll be a different conversation. Go Heels. And this is a great point from Josh. This is what any good leader does, any good GM, any good whatever role you're in. If you're someone that hires and fires people, you always keep a list right in your desk. A list of, if this person quits or resigns or is fired, who would I want to get to fill that position? And the same is true here. This staff undoubtedly knows that behind the scenes, Henry's been waffling with his decision, trying to figure out what's best. It would be roster construction malpractice of them to not be working, having conversations, having a list of guys to go after. And so, yes, right now, publicly on the surface, this is tough. And not just because you lose Henri the player, but because you lose Henri the person who we fell in love with watching this past season. And so we're in wait and see mode now. And that's tough. Let's see what other kind of questions we have. Yeah, I mean, Baxter White talks about the timing of this, says the thing that really stings is that if he declared before the portal closed, other top guys would have jumped in knowing we would have dropped a bag for them. Now it's too late. There's kind of two sides of that, Baxter. I mean, maybe other guys, but there are guys that are already in. I think where I fully agree with what Baxter's saying here is, like, I wish the timing had been sooner, but I also, like, I get it, man. You're making one of the biggest decisions of your life, and you've, like, in a way, waiting till today, the NBA early entry deadline day, you're waiting to see who else is going to declare and not. And if there's enough of those that stay in school, like Braylon Mullins, who would have gone ahead of him, like Tommy Houck, who we talked about earlier, that would have gone ahead of him. Now it's like, okay, maybe I can slide into that first round. But it's tough because so much of the news for so long has been that Henri from the UAC, the committee that reports back, did not get a first round grade. And so you just wonder what it is, and we'll keep our eyes on it. Now I'm getting to the section of the chat where we were having mic issues. Audio a little off. Isaac, mic not working. Sound breaking up. Mic, can't hear. Spam mic and audio. I'm so sorry, you all, for the troubles we had earlier. I hope you didn't miss too much, and we'll see when it all comes back around. Obviously, it was my XLR, which is the cable that plugs into the back of the mic there. All right, let's see if we do have other questions that we want to hit from you guys. Here's another. We didn't name this name. Julius Halifanoa is a Georgetown transfer. Halifanoa is somebody that Carolina looked at when he was going to come over to play in NCAA, and was fine at Georgetown in his 2 years there. Averaged his first year 3 points. It just took a while to get going. This past year, though, 9.5 points, 4.5 rebounds a game. Not a big shot blocker, 0.7 blocks. Played 32 games, but just 19 minutes a game. And so to me, I think he's definitely somebody you look at. He's a solid piece, and but is definitely not. He's not Henri, and that's what makes it tough. In the midst of that, like Swisher says here a little bit lower, Duke is stacked like crazy, and they're still recruiting Graves if he leaves the draft. I mean, that's a problem too. I talked about Allen Graves. He and Duke have been having a lot of conversations, and again, it's tough. And we keep going with that. A lot of people asking for Mika Murinen. A lot of people, like Alan says here, Malone is getting dogs, DAWGS, something we have been missing. That's true. Carolina trying to get rid of that wine and cheese narrative. Mika is a dog, will fit right in, got a lot of screw you tough players, and Mika is one of those. So we'll see on that. John, why are you leaving Carolina? John says, I'm out maybe next year. John, don't abandon things. Let John, if you need it, just take a little time out. Wait till the roster is set, and then you come back. At least check it out. A great question comes from Ball You Man. Says, any possibility he comes back, he meaning Henri, or is he definitely gone? This is a great question to ask, because again, the reporting from Matt Norlander from CBS Sports is that he intends to stay in the NBA draft, but there's always a chance that he gets off to the combine or whatever it is and realizes, like, is not getting a first round commitment, is realizing he's not going to be able to get what he wanted and could come back. The problem, though, is that North Carolina can't wait on that. The Tar Heels now definitively need to move on and look for other guys, look for replacements, either other guys in the draft, international guys, whatever it may be. It's not going to be Henri. That's the problem. So when you look at those deadlines, the NBA Draft Combine is May 10th through 17th. The NCAA early entry withdrawal deadline is 10 days after the combine, which is May 27th, which is still, as we record here on Friday, April 24th, a month and 3 days away. Don't be fooled. There's also, like, if you look at the NBA's website, there is a date that is 10 days prior to the draft. That's the NBA's deadline. That means nothing for college players. So if Henry wants to come back or anybody else, they've got to pull out by May 27th, a month and 3 days from now. All right, let's keep looking if there's anything. Yeah, a lot of people in on Jop and Masamba. But again, got to figure that out. All right, let's see if we can get one, maybe two more questions. A lot of them is stuff we've already covered. Jake Pettit asked, did Drew Fielder commit? I believe he did. Drew is the big man from Boise State. If I remember correctly, let's look on Twitter, but I'm almost positive he already did. Drew Fielder. Yes, he committed to Alabama. Alabama strikes again. Another thing we've got to factor into this is literally on the show we did live last night on Thursday, I talked about the 5 and 5. And this is the concept, if you're unfamiliar with it, that the NCAA is having legit discussions about right now, about the possibility of now allowing players 5 years of eligibility within a 5-year span, trying to simplify it to say no red shirts, no any of that kind of stuff, and you can come back. There are players all over this country that just graduated or are just about to graduate in the next couple weekends that like you think about somebody like Trey Kaufman-Wren from Purdue. He's kind of an undersized big that I don't know if he works well at the NBA level. He's really more of a 4 than a 5, but is he somebody you throw a bag at? Like there's possibilities there. And so you got to think about that. But again, that is a thing that has not passed yet. And if it does go into effect, we wouldn't know about it till it sounds like June at the earliest June, which would be after that NBA withdrawal deadline. So you'd be waiting even longer. So again, like that could be a thing, but it's almost like if you play Texas Hold'em and you get the card you were needing on the whatever turn, river, flop. Flop's the first one, turn, maybe the river's the last one. It's like getting that card you needed. It's like you played the hand wrong, but you lucked out in the end. That's what getting somebody in that 5 for 5 situation would be, in my opinion. UNC Me says, would Wes Miller be a good fit as an assistant? Carolina ties, been a head coach, could help with recruiting. It's a great question. The problem is Wes already has a new head job at UNC Charlotte, and so he is there doing that already. So, yes, probably so, but unfortunately not. All right, guys, I know there's probably other questions. Ultimately, again, Henri Veesaar declaring for the NBA draft with the intent to stay in the draft and not come back to North Carolina or any other college. And so now we turn our attention from what's going next and where Carolina has to turn. Hopefully the staff is getting all these things worked out and we will be with that. So as more news emerges, we'll talk about it over the weekend or into Monday when that comes to pass. Tonight is game 2 of Carolina at Duke in baseball. Carolina won 3-1 last night behind a pitching gem from Jason DeCaro. Tonight's game, first pitch is at 6. It'll be Ryan Lynch on the bump. Hopefully Carolina can go ahead and clinch that series. I say that because we will be live again after that goes. Hopefully sans the mic issues. Also, women's lacrosse is playing in the ACC semifinals at 5 p.m. today. And so we'll see if they can get that done. The finals would be on Sunday. Thank you all so much for being with me here live. Again, apologies for the mic issues early. And but this is what we do. This is live podcasting. Sometimes it happens. If you've not subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels on video and audio, go ahead and do it now so that you don't miss a second. Make sure to enable all the notifications, hit that bell on YouTube. If you don't already download the audio versions of the show, man, I would really be honored if you would go do that. Even if you're usually a YouTube person, downloading the audio version of the show really, truly helps us. And so I'm going to That's the big ask I'm making in this day and time. Go download audio versions of the show. Even if you never listen, just download. I promise you it helps. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, where we're chatting about this stuff all day, every day, that link's down in the show notes, as is the link for the Everydayers Club, where I'm always commenting and hanging out. We have one-on-one conversations. You get ad-free versions of the show and more. That link's down there as well. You guys say it with me. It's a hard thing to say today, but you know how we always end. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tonight after the baseball game, but until then, peace.